Hi, everyone. This is Teresa, and this is the 5th podcast for Pivotal Practices. Last time we had the subject of the root chakra, and I went more in depth about the chakras themselves and the size of them and pretty much their functioning. And so today, we're actually going to talk about two different chakras, and this is going to give you the bottom three, the completion of the bottom three. We went over the root the last time. Today we're going over the sacral and the solar plexus. And these lower chakras are really like the base chakras. They flow, if you remember what I said, at a much slower energy than the crown chakra or the higher chakras. So we're going to just complete the lower section of our chakra system today, which would give us all the learning for three of them, including with, again, the last podcast. So you can always go check that out if you missed that. So we are also, one thing I want to do more like announcements is we're also going to get cordless mics so that I'm able to do more yoga practices. When I'm talking to a lot of my clients or to different people, some of the common things that happen in yoga, I can actually break down principles of alignment and give more proficient ways to cross-train the body so that using props or other things in yoga, you're able to cross-train that without them then in other dynamic situations when you're practicing yoga, or as well to be more proficient and stronger to do it correctly when you're weight bearing in those exercises. So that's something to come. But we can dive in today. If you remember, we talked about that there's 7 main chakras, and then we have learned the root. And today we're going to the second one, which is the sacral chakra. And the sacral chakra, and everybody's torsos are, shorter or longer. Everybody's shaped like slightly differently. But the best way to pinpoint it is to go where your belly button is and go about an inch below your belly button. So about an inch below your belly button, and also the sacrum, right? So it's like an inch below your belly button and the sacrum behind you, right? And in there, in between those 2 points is typically where you're going to find your sacral chakra. And the color is orange. So when you do any kind of Reiki, you can imagine beaming orange into this chakra for balance, or you can imagine just utilizing the color orange in the chakra to help find balance when you're meditating, as well as when I talked about like you can gravitate towards a color when you're actually becoming more grounded and balanced in that chakra. So if you notice that you're wearing a lot of orange and you normally don't, that's going to tell you that your sacral chakra is like had some healing and you're finding yourself more balanced in that way. So the Sanskrit term, and again, Sanskrit is a different language, so sometimes it's harder to pronounce, but it's Swadhisthana. So this is a little bit of a harder chakra for most people to say would be easy to roll off the tongue, but it definitely has a cool sound. And as I had taught you, every single chakra is connected to an endocrine gland. So this would be our testes or our ovaries, and the gonads is really the endocrine glands that we're talking about that tie into the sacral chakra. And the mantra, there's always these mantras, and you don't have to utilize mantras. If mantras are something that seem just complex and not something you're used to, you can always look up ways on YouTube to utilize mantras. But also in yoga, we do use mantras. So the mantra for the sacral chakra is VAM. And so you can chant VAM, which is VAM, or think of chanting VAM, and that's going to begin to bring this vibration through the sacral chakra, bringing balance and restoration. So typically with like mantras, the way you might hear it would be something like this. So it would be VAM. So it's not something that's done really quickly. It's done, and when I was doing it, the vibration of the M continues to move, and I can actually feel it in my throat, and I can feel it vibrate down through my body. So the vibrations with mantras or chanting in yoga help to ignite and balance the body and the energy body, just so that you have an example of what that looks like. So with the root chakra, it was I stand. With the sacral chakra, that was like another mantra that we can actually state a word or a phrase. It's I create. So the beautiful thing about the sacral chakra is it's tied to the water element. So anytime that you are doing healing work, we again can go to, okay, maybe I need to go sit by water and listen to a stream or listen to a waterfall. Play a tape or music that has water in the background is going to bring me balance in this chakra. The water element is extremely purifying, and the water element is something that likes to flow. It doesn't like complete restriction. It is all about ebbing and flowing when it comes to the sacral chakra. So there's a natural rhythm, just like the sacrum has this natural rhythm in our body, that bone in our hips, to sway. It's a very natural rhythm for the hips due to the sacral iliac joint. That swaying is a natural way for that chakra to move, for that part of our body to move. And that kind of represents that water element, that ability for that ebb and flow. So one of the things that this chakra is nicknamed is the seat of our emotions. So it's very tied to our emotions and our feelings. And it's important for this chakra to stay balanced that we actually take quiet time, regularly, to make sure that we're able to filter through our life, to filter through the things about what's happening to us, to catch up to ourselves, to be able to also identify our feelings and even our deep feelings or stuck emotions or situations or circumstances that need to be worked through and faced. So what we would say is people that tend to push down their emotions or neglect feelings and never allow them out, that's going to come as an imbalance in this chakra, or will come as an imbalance in potential organs that are governed by this chakra, showing health issues later. Or they're not able to be compassionate to others and understand other people's feelings, right? It's not a weakness to be vulnerable and reveal your feelings. Being vulnerable is a way to communicate, and it's proficient communication. And being able to be vulnerable with another human being and be respected, though, under that vulnerability and seen, is how we heal. It's how we actually feel heard. It's how this chakra emanates. And there's a beauty in that. That vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually a tremendous strength to take the time to identify your feelings, sit with them, and not feel as if you have to shove them down all the time. Okay. So the other thing is it's also tied into our sexuality. So it's our primary sexual chakra. Again, I said in the last podcast, the root chakra is the secondary sex chakra and sexuality chakra. And we would say that because we really shouldn't be giving our body to somebody that we don't feel is safe or is safe for us or is violating us. And so the root chakra then comes into play because that's about grounding and feeling protected and safe. Where the sacral chakra comes in is because almost pretty much every part of our sexual organs is tied into the sacral chakra. And so with that, that means that that is the parts of the body that it governs, along with our bladder, along with our kidneys. And so if you think about it, the bladder and the kidneys have a lot to do with the water element. And if you know anything about Chinese medicine, the bladder meridian and the kidney meridian are actually tied into the season of winter. So a lot of times I find that those two meridians need more rebooting in my clients or in myself during the winter season. They're a little bit more taxed during their peak season. So With it also, we have our sexual organs, our sacral spine, which is the same fused bone where our bottom of our spine has like a fused triangular bone that's like upside down where the hips attach. And we've talked about that in a previous podcast. And synovial fluid in our joints. And I think this is where a lot of people don't know this, that synovial fluid, that lubrication in our joints, is tied into our water element. So any kind of synovial fluid disease or rheumatoid arthritis, right, would be something that is some tying into an imbalance in the sacral chakra. Okay. So synovial fluid is in like our knees, it's in like our ball and socket joints. It's a fluid that, again, lubricates our joints for our movement so that we're not getting so much wear and tear. Okay. So when we talk about the sexual part of this chakra, really there's a couple things that I address when I teach this in Reiki 1. And this is, what is our take on our sexuality? Like, what does our sexuality mean to us? What's our take on it? Do we even like sex? Do we even allow ourselves to feel like we can enjoy it? Do we take on multiple partners? Are we in a committed relationship? All of these things affect this chakra. And one of the things that I talk more extensively on is, and I brought it up the last episode, is, we have to make sure that we're careful when we're giving ourselves in a sexual way. Yes, it's a very beautiful thing, but the thing is, if we're doing it very freely with just whoever, there are soul ties that get this connection. Every time we have sex with somebody, there's a soul tie that occurs, which is sometimes why you notice people that are in abusive relationships can't seem to break out of them, because they continue sexual relations with that person. And then that keeps that soul tie and that dysfunction there. So it's usually really important to break soul ties, which is something that I teach some of my clients that are facing certain things where it's binding up them health-wise or making them feel like they can't get over someone after they get out of a relationship. But with it, it's a responsibility. Our body is this sacred thing that it shouldn't be taken lightly, that when we're giving ourselves, we should feel respected with that person. We should feel like they know us and that it's not just like a one night thing, because eventually that's going to hurt somebody. Somehow somebody's going to get more attached, and it's going to end up hurting somebody's feelings or hurting this chakra and hurting parts of the body. So I have a lot of people where maybe they were more promiscuous or did certain things when they were younger. And when we're younger, we're figuring things out. But when they were older, they ended up needing a lot more healing, and they had a lot of guilt or shame, or their ability to feel like they could find a respectful partner and knew what that meant, or be more committed in a relationship, was more of a challenge. So again, everybody's unique, but these are just things through the years that I've witnessed where people have needed healing in these areas. The other thing is, if somebody is naturally younger and they've been in an abusive household, it's not abnormal. They can have many side effects to their behaviors. And one of those behaviors is being very promiscuous, searching for love and acceptance in a way that's not healthy when they're too young to understand that they might pick up an STD or end up pregnant at a young age, on accident, not realizing that they're as fertile, right? Because they're so young, and they might not be ready yet to be a mom, or they might get shamed in their family or disowned because of it, depending on the way the family views things. Not that that's necessarily beneficial for them when they find themselves there, but the problem that happens is when a woman or a young man is too promiscuous, part of that is also them trying to seek some kind of love. As well, if somebody breaks a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction, sometimes they end up becoming addicted to really seeking multiple partners. It's just another form of addiction for them, right? So true love and commitment and intimacy in a relationship, where you feel seen and heard and respected, is what makes this chakra really sing. And also things like dancing, which I love to dance, dancing and singing, and this ability to be creative with this chakra is like a huge ability for this chakra to really heal and emanate and expand. So things like people who are creative writers or people who love poetry, people that love to dance, people that love to make music, all of that stuff is super healing. And I think sometimes people get too serious in life as we become adults. They forget to laugh, they forget to remember to be joyous. And all of those things I mentioned, like things like yoga, working out, dancing, singing, painting, anything that's creative, makes this chakra open back up and balance and bring the soul and spirit back to balance. It's really important that as much as we can be responsible, that we take out time as well to have fun, to enjoy life, to do those things, to be creative, and on a regular basis. So don't hold back when it comes to that, okay? So it is the chakra of relationships, and it's also the chakra that gives us our ability to distinguish our emotions from other people's emotions. So again, we can tie into the ability to make sure that if somebody starts speaking for you and you don't feel that way, it's important so that you don't violate or stuff down the feelings in this chakra, that you correct that or say, I don't identify with those feelings. Here's how I feel. There are times when I had been in probably not so good of a marriage, and this was years back, and it would be like the person speaking for me or telling me that this is how I feel. And I would always say, you don't speak for me. You don't get to speak for me. I speak my own truth. The only truth that can come from our soul and spirit and our chakra system is the truth that is one that we speak. Other people don't get to necessarily tell us exactly how we feel. That has to come from deep within ourselves. So always set healthy boundaries if somebody's doing that to you, so that you protect this chakra. So when this chakra is out of balance, we become moody and depressed, and we become overexerted and over sexual energy, or we almost revert from sexual energy. And then the other thing is dramatic mood swings. Clearly, none of those things sound fun. One of the things that I want to just backtrack on with sexuality that is also important is sometimes it is taught in certain religious forms that sexuality is dirty and bad, and that, you know, it's one thing to say that you need to wait to get married. That's fine if that's how, you know, people that are Christian or other people feel. But the one thing that we run into that's a problem is if you're telling your kids because you're religious that it's dirty and bad and it's shameful, that's going to cause your adult child an ability to feel shame and guilt when they're trying to actually do something with their partner or their wife or their spouse or husband that is extremely important for the ability for them to reveal love to each other in an intimate way. And it's not something that shame and guilt has room for in that context when we're in like a good, protective, you know, committed relationship. I know women who were raised in those circumstances who literally could not orgasm when they got into their marriage. And that's terrible. Like, that's horrible. God created us to be with the ability to have sex, but again, within pretenses that make sense and aren't abusive or violating. So it's important to make sure as your kids get older and hit puberty that they learn how to find a partner that respects them, but we don't shame sexuality. That again is still like almost a form of emotional or religious abuse. So I just want to address that as well. So areas of the body that this controls is, or where it would show issues, would be low back pain or sciatic issues. And most people have had sciatic issues or psoas. When your psoas muscle acts up, those things where you feel discomfort shifting from one side of your low back to the other, which is the side of your spine below the hip bone, that's going to typically be a psoas issue. And that always acts up when this chakra is very off. And then also we have intestinal issues, reproductive organ issues, synovial fluid issues. And so, again, the one thing that we have to remember is the sacral chakra needs us to be organic, go with the flow, and have fun, not be militant, not be overly like, I have to get this huge list done. I don't pause to take a breath in life. I don't pause to like smile or laugh, and remember to enjoy everything that's going on around me and just the engagement and dance with life itself. So this chakra thrives, as I said, in our ability to do creative things within our lives so that we can experience deep joy, freedom, and laughter. So with our cells, what does it govern? So it really ties into our actual sex hormones. So this would be progesterone, estrogen. It would also be testosterone. And it's also our ability to be fertile. So our ability to procreate outside of maybe, remembering that some of the dysfunctions in the body can be hereditary, which can be very different than if I'm imbalanced due to something or trauma, right, that has to be healed. But I've seen couples put too much pressure on themselves when they're trying to have kids, and it's usually when the pressure comes off and they let go of that it happens. Or I've seen people in relationships that are having trouble, but they're still trying to have a kid and they cannot get pregnant until the restoration has occurred and healing has occurred. And that's typically then more so when it's going to happen. So again, really, when we're trying to get pregnant, we should do the best as far as fueling ourselves with good things, food and all of that, and taking care of our body, but be open to just enjoying our partner and not like tracking everything and overly trying and being militant. That is almost counterproductive with this chakra. So ways to balance the sacral chakra: be mindful of your sexual energy. We also would say soak in the tub or go swimming, anything with water, sit by a creek or a waterfall, listening to that. Exercise that is huge with stretching. So movement, walking, stretching, yoga, Pilates, certain types of exercise kind of supersede others with this chakra, and definitely stretching is one of them. And then one of the things we would say is a yoga practice for the sacral chakra that's rhythmic, so more like a dance, like when you're doing more of a rhythmic flow or like a dance with your yoga practice, that's going to really spark the sacral chakra. So just a couple last things that will cause or are signs that the sacral chakra is out of balance. And that has to do with feeling very emotional, crying, or feeling sad. Also, we have doing something that disrespects who you are. It's because if we do something that disrespects who we are, or that we're going to really regret, what happens is this chakra is about our essential purpose of self-respect. And this also applies to our relationships. So when we overly allow somebody to be emotionally abusive or abusive towards us, we are actually disrespecting ourselves. I always say you train people how to treat you. You cannot control them. But if you're willing to take emotional abuse or somebody telling you and speaking for you or being abusive in any manner, that's only going to get worse. There's usually a little bit of a test area, and then it just continues and gets worse. And if you don't put up that boundary, and if you don't stand up for yourself, you're disrespecting yourself, and then you're allowing them to disrespect you as well. You cannot control them, but if they're going to continue to be like that towards you, then you have the responsibility to get away or get out of it. It's not right when people violate us or do abusive things, but it's our choice to keep taking it or not, right? It is important to get ourselves out of it, because the longer we're in that kind of situation, the more we choke the energy body, the more we can have health problems. And at the same time, the more our mind becomes addicted to the trauma, and it takes a lot longer to rewire the longer we're in it, okay? So the last thing is a relationship out of balance, and issues close to family or friends are also controlled in the sacral chakra. Okay, so let's go into the third chakra now. So we're going to talk about the solar plexus chakra. And this one is you follow your sternum, right? You go to your sternum, which literally covers your heart. It's where your rib cage attached to over here. And you follow the sternum. It starts here. You go all the way down, and it's right past the xiphoid process. At the base of your sternum, you go down just like a little bit, like a fingerprint. And that is going to be where your solar plexus is. And the color for the solar plexus is this beautiful, like sun colored yellow. And I love the solar plexus. I mean, I love all the chakras, but the solar plexus is really very key to us actually like living out what we dream, living out who we are, what we believe in. So it's about putting action into everything about what we are. And the element for the solar plexus is fire. And those of the people and those of you who know me, I definitely have a fiery spirit. We usually have at least more than one element that we're ruled by, and fire is definitely one of mine, even in Chinese medicine. And I love the element of fire because the element of fire creates healing and change and brings passion out of people. So it's a really good chakra. The Sanskrit term for it is Manipura. Sorry, sometimes Sanskrit terms are funny. Is Manipura. This one is definitely a hard one for you. Manipura. That's my son is laughing. And the mantra is Ram. And the location is, again, right under the sternum past the xiphoid process. And the endocrine gland, and a lot of people are not aware of this. They look at the pancreas as a digestive organ, and it absolutely is. But the pancreas is this one organ that is in the body that is completely unique. It is an endocrine gland and an exocrine gland. So it helps digestion, but it also balances hormones. So the endocrine gland specific to the solar plexus is the pancreas. So with the pancreas, again, we have the different mantras. This mantra is Ram, R-A-M, and the actual other mantra, which is like a phrase or words that we put together, is I absorb. And the reason for that is the solar plexus has everything to do with our digestive organs. It is a big part of our gallbladder, our liver, our pancreas, our stomach. It is huge for our ability to digest and keep nutrients and other things in our body. And also important that those organs are healthy so that we can actually keep the rest of our body healthy, so that we're getting all of the vitamins and all of the things that our body needs. So this chakra is responsible for our passion in our everyday lives. So I always tell people, like, if life is getting too serious, look to, are you doing anything that makes you spontaneous or that you're passionate about? Do you watch only serious things? Are you only watching thrillers or the news or really serious documentaries? Do you ever mix in laughter? You need to laugh regularly. That's really important to feel passion in life and to remember that life has goodness to it. So it's important to even watch the music you're listening to sometimes. You know, sometimes listening to maybe harder music is okay, but on a complete 24/7, basis for days and days without anything positive being fed to you, it's going to cause issues and start to affect your mood and your mind. So always mix in positivity throughout the day. And when we talk about this being a fire element, it's really amazing. The solar plexus actually carries a warmth and like a heat element to it. When you get used to your energy body and working with it, I can actually bring more warmth to my body by utilizing my solar plexus and by making it feel like the flame is increasing and consciously doing that. Just like as a yogi, I can bring my heart rate lower when things are going on, right? So the more we practice yoga, we practice meditation and get that body-mind connection, the more we have control over these things. it has to do with the way we digest our life, other people, everyday encounters, and our circumstances, even our emotions. So it is like a sister to the sacral chakra with our emotions, okay? This chakra deals with our levels of self-confidence. Like, do you have confidence? Are you confident at all? Do you feel yourself worthy of the things that you receive in life, of love? All of that stuff ties into this chakra. And we're not talking about pride, right? Pride is actually like a negative thing. Pride is more of an ego thing, where self-confidence is more of a healthy, humble way of feeling worth in yourself and knowing that you carry value. When we get very egotistical, or when we think too highly of ourselves, or we think we're better than other people, that would create an imbalance in this chakra. Those are negative things. Those are not positive things. I've always said, not saying this in any weird way, but I'm not somebody that cares if someone is famous or just a regular person, because to me, everybody's important. I don't value famous people over the people that are my neighbors or my family. It's more about, is that person treating me well? That person always has value. How do they treat me? How do they treat others? What is their characteristics? What are their actions? And that to me is more authentic. It's important to remember that every single person has the potential to be something amazing, and that just because they don't have some massive platform doesn't mean that they aren't doing amazing things every day, helping people every day, making differences every day. To me, there's no hierarchy in that. It's more about, are they contributing to humanity as a whole? And are they overly not being abusive? That's going to be the big thing. So with that, and we're talking about like self-confidence, we have to sometimes watch people that are very over egotistical. People can become abusive through the solar plexus if they're narcissistic. That shows an imbalance here in this chakra. It shows you that they actually have some things going on inside, and that they're overly abusing their ability to be over egotistical onto others. Okay. So the digestive organs, as I said, that this governs, and we talked about this, is the stomach, but we'll go over it again: gallbladder, liver, pancreas. The spleen is included as well, but it's a secondary included organ because it's more closer to the root chakra and the lymphatic system. And then certain areas of the small and large intestine as well. Okay. So it relates to digestion and absorption of our food, and life is precious and requires appreciation. Do we even honor life? Like, when we feel really stuck and we allow a circumstance or somebody's mistreatment to almost stifle us from living out our life, then we are not really showing that we appreciate even the gift of life existing. It's important for us to be resilient. It's important for us to keep getting up and like being willing to fight through things and not feel devalued just because somebody else devalues us. That has nothing to do with our worth or our value that's actually within us. They don't get to take that away from us, right? So most people who feel lethargic, this is so true, exhausted, depressed, that shows you that there's a huge imbalance off in the solar plexus. So one of the biggest things I'll hear from clients is, I feel exhausted. I'm so tired. I can't seem to have any energy. I feel like I've got no energy for anything. I don't even want to get out of bed, or I'm having a hard time completing my tasks. This 100% shows you that the solar plexus is burnt out. And as a Reiki practitioner, we go in and we reboot the solar plexus and we get that fire back to being ignited. And every time I do that in my treatments, people come out and they're like, I can't even believe the energy I feel. I can't even believe I feel totally better. And that's because if we are overdoing things and we don't rest, if we have a very high stressful season in our lives where we have to utilize a lot of our energy, solar plexus is going to burn out. And it's not safe to leave it burnt out for long periods of time. So it's definitely something that needs to stay ignited for our entire energy, our metabolism, our ability to actually move and utilize our body, mind, and spirit. So having to do with our cells, it governs our insulin levels, blood sugar levels, how we metabolize carbs. Think of anything that those organs do. So breaking down our food, breaking down our carbs, our fats, digesting them. Like the liver utilizes and digests vitamin A, I think it's K, and it might be E. Like there's specific vitamins in different organs. All those things would then come into play, right? So whatever all of those organs do, that is what's going to come down to the cellular level of this chakra. Ways to balance the solar plexus, core work. So anytime you're utilizing core work, and core work does not have to just be sit-ups, right? I've taught my yoga students, I don't even do sit-ups. I don't do lifting weights with my core because I'm always utilizing my core when I'm working out in my yoga practice in every pose. So the core should be worked anyways throughout the entire day. And it's really a base of power that then utilizes our energy through everywhere else. So core exercises fuel this chakra. And then yoga practice abundant in back bends. Yoga practice with the focus on twisting postures, which aid in digestion and wring and rinse out these organs. Sitting near a fire, which I absolutely love. So sitting near a fire also utilizes keeping this chakra happy, and lying in the sun or just being outdoors in the sun. Signs that the solar plexus is out of balance is not being able to adapt to changes in circumstances. That's really important. Like nothing lasts forever in life. Everything always will change. So the resistance to adjusting to change or circumstances is not healthy for this chakra. It's also not healthy for the for the sacral chakra. Low self-esteem, indigestion, difficulty waking up, feeling exhausted, and no energy for your day. So, really, I would also say the same creative things that you do for the sacral chakra do help to balance this chakra as well, because that is putting out into action our passion. You'll notice that the chakras that are close to each other, just like how organs can be close to each other, they almost pair together with some little bit of overlapping in their functioning or in the things they innervate or affect. And again, I can give an example, like if we're talking organs, the liver and the gallbladder, I say, are a married couple. The heart and the lungs are a married couple, right? Like there's just specific organs. The adrenal glands and the kidneys are married, but the adrenals are the root chakra and the kidneys are the sacral chakra. So there's a teeny bit of overlapping because of connection in the body, but one place might be the primary chakra or primary effect, and another one might be secondary. So hopefully you found this information beneficial to you. And the next podcast, we'll probably take a break from chakras and you can digest some other stuff that I'm going to go over. The next podcast, I'm either going to have a guest or we're going to start to go over anatomy and your emotions. But hopefully we'll get those mics soon and we can also start to get some yoga into the practice. You can check out if you ever want to donate to help the costs for, this and all the stuff you're learning. Go into the 4th podcast. You can find the actual thing on Venmo at Pivotal Practices. And you can always donate money to the cause to help others learn how to help themselves and to find more health in their body, mind, and spirit. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying all these. Have a really blessed day. Take care.